Chris Charlton for WhereDoesGodzillaPoop.com, and this is something different. This is a game called Blackbar by Nevin Morgan. I'm not exactly sure how you pronounce his name, and it's a game. It's a game about censorship. It's kind of an interactive fiction thing, I guess. But the idea is, rather than choosing your own adventure, you're going through a bunch of letters between these two characters, Vi and Kenty, and because everything's in this sort of 1984 style totalitarian dystopia, you have to figure out what each of the censored words are. So I'm going to spoil this first puzzle for you. So this is very, very bare bones. It's quite Orwellian. It feels like you could actually be playing this in 1984 on a Spectrum, but it's really, really clever. A lot of it's about kind of figuring out, or it is in these early stages, and really I'm not going to play too much about this, too much of this game in this video, because everything that you do is going to be necessarily spoiler full, both mechanically and just in terms of the ideas of how things work, and in terms of spoiling the puzzles, but also spoiling the plot if you're reading along here. It's what I like about it is that it's very focused on context and figuring out, perhaps from the clues that you see around, figuring out what these words are. So, something but charming, probably small. So I make a typo here. So yeah, I mean that's really clever, and the further on these things go, there's also more puzzles in terms of figuring out codes that are in rhyme, or shuffling some letters, sort of leet speak references to today happening there, and it's really, as someone, for me, my day job is kind of about thinking about how language works, and that makes this approach really interesting to me. I haven't played anything really like this, and that's, as simple as this is, this is the end of it. Everything's just in plain text. There's maybe a little bit of ASCII art later on, but there's no sound to it. It's just this very bare bones presentation, but it's a really neat idea. And there's a lot of word games that kind of talk about as your success is determined by how big of a word you can make, and not necessarily what the word itself means. So it's kind of interesting to play a puzzle game that explores the meanings of the word and the fact that words do have power. So early on, censored is a word that comes up quite a lot. So yeah, I suppose I'll take you up to the first major plot point here. It's difficult to really play too much and show off too much, without spoiling anything here. So first thing that kind of made me think here, my first vacation will be in early something or so. You kind of think spring, summer, autumn. What you do figure out is that as you type, you can only type to the size of the word it is. So there is a little bit of a hint, because you know how many letters are in. So if I try and type in early spring, it's just going to say SPR. So I kind of think, well, what other time frame can I put in? And May is a month with 3 letters. So I mean, it's a lot of that early on, but it does get more complex. And yeah, this kind of feels like the more relaxed kind of counterpart to something like Papers, Please, where that again was kind of looking at sorry, let me see something. Love, maybe? I can't really remember. I did play this early on, yeah. Where that's kind of looking at a dystopian society from a different end, from a bureaucratic end. This is looking at similar kind of issues, and you could make similar distinctions between that between this game and kind of what's happening. You know, there's some oblique references to what the NSA are doing in America, or you know what you know, everything that's happening in Russia, or things that are happening with censoring the internet in the UK, or really wherever you are right now. You're probably doing something that's being seen if you're paranoid enough to buy into that, or if you're sensible enough to buy into that, depending on your view. So occasionally you do get these breaks where the government, the Department of Communication, are giving you warnings throughout. There's also like a resistance faction coming on that also send you messages that have to be decoded, and those kind of take a little bit more sort of puzzle solving acumen. So yeah, you're getting the idea here that you're being told off. It's kind of, they do make some concessions to gameplay. It seems odd at the start that some words are censored and some words aren't, but really it's there. You know, those are choices that are made so that you get used to the mechanics of the game, and everything really is. It's well written. It's you know, this could easily fall apart if it was very sloppily put together and poorly characterized, and you know, it was full of spelling mistakes or what have you. But you know, the bulk of this game is in the writing, and I think it is well written, and it's a story well worth checking out, and it's a game well worth checking out. And just as a word to the wise, don't look at guides, but I don't know whether there are any guides, but there is like a healthy amount of discussion already happening on the internet, and I like the fact that so far from what I've seen, people aren't really giving away the answers, but they're having discussion and giving away cryptic hints, and I think that's super cool. It's like people not spoiling it for each other, they're just kind of enjoying how the game works out, and that's really exciting. So I've probably given away far too much. They're on to me in this video, so I'm going to stop here. But thanks for watching, and do keep your eyes peeled on wheredoesgodzillapoop.com very soon for a full written review. Thanks very much. Bye.